You know that feeling, right? You're staring at a blank page, you know all this stuff about Soviet Russia, but turning it into a top-grade A-level essay, it can feel like you're trying to crack some kind of secret code. What if I told you there is a code? A clear formula for success. In this explainer, we're going to give you the keys to unlock it. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to get inside the examiner's head and figure out what they really want. Then, I'll show you the perfect blueprint for your essay. After that, we'll actually build an argument together. Using a case study, I'll give you some pro-level tools to make your writing shine, and we'll finish up with a super simple checklist to run through before the exam. All right, let's get into it. Okay, step one is maybe the most important thing we'll talk about. You have to understand who you're writing for. Seriously, this isn't about memorizing more facts than the person sitting next to you. It's about understanding the rules of the game you're playing. So, let's just ask the big question right away. When that examiner picks up your essay, what are they actually looking for? What's going to make them nod and think, yep, this person gets it? It's both simpler and, well, a little more complex than you might think. Here it is. This is the absolute heart of it all. A bad essay, or even just an okay one, just tells the story. First this happened, and then this happened, and after that this happened. It's just a narrative. But a top-grade essay, it makes an argument. It doesn't just say what happened, it explains why it mattered, what its impact was, and how it proves a bigger point. Think of it this way. You're not a tour guide just pointing things out. You're a detective building a case. Let's look at the mark scheme, the actual rulebook. All those precise details, those names and dates you've crammed into your brain, they're your ammunition. They are absolutely crucial. They show you know your stuff. But just listing them, just firing them off randomly, won't get you that A grade. The real points, the big scores, come from your sustained argument, your analysis, and your evaluation. Your facts are the ammunition, sure, but your argument is the winning strategy. Okay, so we know what they're looking for. Now, how do we actually deliver it? Well, you need a reliable structure, a solid blueprint that you can use for pretty much any essay question they decide to throw at you. And this is it. Think of this as a debate that you are completely in control of. You kick things off with your main argument. That's your thesis. Then you present the evidence for it. But then, and this is key, you show your intellectual firepower by bringing in the counterargument, the antithesis. Finally, you bring it all together in a synthesis. This is where you weigh both sides and come to a smarter, more sophisticated judgment. It's not just about picking a side. It's about creating a new, nuanced position that really respects the complexity of history. Then you just wrap it all up in your conclusion. Now let's zoom in a bit. If that overall structure is the skeleton of your essay, this is the muscle you build onto the bones. Every single one of your paragraphs should follow this logic. Make your point. Back it up with solid evidence. Then, and this is the important part, explain why that evidence matters. And always, always, always link it back to the question. This is what keeps your essay sharp, focused, and on target. Right, theory is great and all, but let's make this real. We're going to take a classic theme from the Soviet Russia course, the extent of change after the 1917 revolution, and see exactly how this blueprint works in practice. Let's get started with our main argument, our thesis. The point of our first paragraph is going to be really simple and direct. The revolution fundamentally changed Russia's entire political system. See? Clear, direct, and it's something we can argue. Okay, now we need the evidence to prove it. We can't just vaguely talk about change. We need to bring out the hard facts. We're going to cite the Bolshevik takeover in October 1917, the creation of the USSR in 1922, and the cementing of one-party rule. These are the concrete, factual pillars that are going to hold our point up. And here is where the magic really happens. We explain why this evidence matters. It wasn't just a new guy in charge. It was the complete death of one system, Tsarist autocracy, and the birth of a totally new one. And see how that last sentence links it right back to the idea of a turning point? That is Peele in action. That's how it works. But wait, a top essay never stops there. It always shows balance. So now we're going to introduce the counterargument, the antithesis. For all that massive political change, did life actually get any better for most people? Well, maybe not. And again, we bring the receipts. We don't just say life was hard. We point to the devastating famines, the pure chaos of forced collectivization, and the absolutely brutal repression under the secret police, the NKVD. This evidence paints a totally different picture, right? One of ongoing suffering, not radical improvement. And this is where you really show off to the examiner. This analysis shows you can think critically. You're saying, look, I know the political structure's changed, but for millions of ordinary people, life was still brutal. You're challenging a really simple definition of change, and that shows you understand just how messy and complicated history really is. Okay, so you've got the structure down, and you know how to build a killer argument. Now let's look at a few pro-level tools, some little secrets that will elevate your essay from just good into a true A-grade performance. I want you to meet your new best friend, SPEND. It stands for specific, precise, exact names and dates. So instead of saying something vague like, the secret police killed a lot of people, you say, the NKVD under Yezhov conducted the Great Purge of 1937-38. See the difference? SPEND level detail is your secret weapon against waffle, and it proves you really know your stuff. Honestly, using the correct terminology is like a secret handshake with the examiner. When you correctly drop terms like Sovnarkom or collectivization or gulag into your sentences, it shows that you are fluent in the language of this period of history. It just screams expertise. You want a little trick to force yourself to analyze instead of just describing? Use these words. Weaving in terms like significance, consequence, or comparing the short-term versus long-term impact literally pushes your writing to be more analytical. They're like big flashing signposts for the examiner, telling them, hey, look at me, I'm evaluating right now. All right, we have cracked the code. We've got the blueprint and we've packed our toolkit. Now let's just boil it all down into one final simple checklist that you can run through in your head right before you start writing in that exam hall. 4 steps, that's it. Number 1, read the question properly. What are the command words? What is it really asking you to do? 2, spend 5 minutes planning. Just map out your main thesis and antithesis points. 3, as you're writing, make sure every paragraph is arguing with that sharp SPN level detail. And 4, end strong. Finish with a powerful conclusion that directly answers the question with your final, well-supported judgment. So there you have it. The code is cracked. The blueprint is yours. An A-level history essay isn't some big mystery. It's a skill. It's a skill you can learn, practice, and master. The next time you're facing that blank page, you'll know exactly what to do. Now go build your argument.